And so because we don't have any kind of archetype within within civilization, really, for something that is unconditioned love, the closest thing we usually have is our parents. And so then we project that concept onto the divine, onto the light, onto the cosmic self, true self. And so then we look at these stories, you know. Now we have suddenly, instead of this unconditioned love, this beauty, which we can simply open to receive, we have this archetype which withholds. If we have a punishing parent, then we believe there must be a punishing cosmic parent. And so if there's a cosmic punishing parent, what's the ultimate telling off? We create the ultimate telling off and we call it hell. And then we create the ultimate pat on the back and we call that heaven. It takes a long time to strip that insanity from the mind, all our own projections, which is why Rumi, of course, said, you know, we're not here to search for love, only to remove the barriers that we've built against it. We can't believe it could be this easy, that there's nothing that we need to become, nothing we need to do. We've got nothing to live up to. We don't need to earn that. We just can't accept it because we've had no experience of that before awakening. All we have is an experience of a love that was conditional. And so this is the importance of the meditation, the spiritual practice. It's not to become worthy. It's not necessarily to become something else. It's the slow discovery that that is the illusion. But we can't just say, oh, yeah, that is the illusion, because this goes really deep into our psyche, deep into our body, these layers of shame, you know, talks about it as the Garden of Eden. You know, we bite into the knowledge, we ingest knowledge of separation, good and evil. And then we cloak ourselves in shame and guilt. And then we say, it says we wander the earth like a hungry ghost, really, constantly needing to work and toil and all that stuff to feel that, to hope to achieve that alignment, the return to the Garden of Eden, which is actually our true nature. But then, you know, I don't know why I always speak about Christ because I'm not a Christian, but here we are. So, so, you know, Christ says, don't toil. And so, you know, the birds of the air, they don't worry. They don't think of what they're going to eat tomorrow, he says. You know, they don't store in barns. They don't do any of that. They're just in complete faith and surrender. And so they're looked after. And then, you know, famous teaching is you'll be looked after more than that. So simple, but we're so full of fear, cloaked in shame and guilt. And so that's our job, to take that off again. And that's the spiritual process. So we work on what we could call our enlightenment, our spiritual awakening, only to know experientially that we're loved unconditionally all the time. And then to allow that understanding to seep into our, literally into our DNA. And so, a spiritual teacher, they say, in Zen, there's different interpretations. They say a spiritual teacher is like a finger pointing at the moon. And so some people say the moon is the enlightened state. And so that's a spiritual teacher that points to the truth. Then other schools of Zen, they interpret the moon as the mind. So it means the spiritual teacher points at the problem. So you keep on hearing, oh, I've got shame and guilt. Oh, it's my mind that's creating hell for me. Oh, it's my programming and that's the problem. So, mm. So just keep coming back. Just keep on releasing the heavy burden of feeling that you're unworthy, that you're not perfect, that you're not loved, that you're not beautiful, that you're not acceptable. All our problems come from that belief system. I mean, just look at the sun. Well, not today, obviously. Look at the sun, you know. The sun isn't thinking, I'm only going to shine on this person. This person's been good today. This person's been bad. So, cloud. So it just shines. And so that's the nature of light. It doesn't withhold itself, but we can hide ourselves from it. So what does it take to surrender? So it takes you to realize that your soul, your nature, is already surrendered. It's just your mind that's not thinking. Emotional responses to that thinking, the karmic wheel spinning. So what do we do about that? That's the spiritual practice. So Taoism is step back from the wheel and watch it. Watch your mind. Thought appears, thought goes. Thought appears, thought goes. Emotion reacts to that thought. Like have a story about that emotion, and the karmic wheel starts again. Wheel of samsara. So that's one option. Just watch your mind and your emotions until you realize there's something else about you. Or devotional practice. Instead of letting your mind spin unconsciously, give them something to do. So give them a mantra or a prayer or the breath to watch. Then, they have something to do. That ancient Indian story, I don't know if I've said this to you before, probably, but here it is again. So the ancient Indian fable is a king is his kingdom is in ruins. And so he prays to God and says, God, please send me a servant that can repair my kingdom. And so the divine sends a servant, poof, appears. And so, the heavenly voice says, this servant is going to repair your kingdom. He will work 24/7 until your kingdom's prepared and finished. You know, and the king says, that sounds great. Thank you for that. Then the divine voice says, but there's always a but in these stories. Here's a small print before you sign. If he doesn't have any work to do, he will turn on you and he will kill you. So the king goes, no problem. look at this. Look, there's no end of work to do. Like I'm not slightest bit concerned about that. So the king lets the servant repair his kingdom, and then a few years pass, and suddenly the king's getting worried. He's looking out and thinks, "Oh my God, everything's been repaired. There's only a few more jobs left." And I remember that this servant, if he's not busy, will turn on me and kill me. So he prays again, "Help, I'm in a pickle here." And so divine comes back, the voice is there again. And so he says to the divine, "You told me the servant was going to turn on me and destroy me, and the jobs are nearly done. Can you tell me what to do?" So the divine voice says, "No problem. When the servant has finished repairing your kingdom, of course, there'll be other jobs it needs to do. But between those times, ask this servant to build a wall. And then when he has nothing to do, ask him to climb the wall and climb down, climb up, climb down, climb up, climb down. Give him that to do. And then when you have a job to do, set this servant to the job." And so this servant is our mind. So it's an incredibly powerful tool. However, when it doesn't have anything to do, it turns on us. you know. So what is the wall? So the wall is your spiritual practice. So the wall is a mantra. The wall is the breath. So we give the mind something to do. So we give it a prayer, a mantra, the ability to observe the moment. We keep it busy. And then, so that's the point of spiritual practice. It's just to deal with this weird problem that we all have called our own mind. So the question, what do you think Ram Dass, who's, famous American Bhakti devotional teacher, when he says your mind is your karma, what does that mean in your practices? Okay, so we could say, what does he mean? And we could also say, what does karma mean? What is karma? Okay. So the direct translation of karma, the word means action. So it means movement. And so the mind is our karma means uh, the mind is moving. And so you have two polarities of movement. You have action and then reaction. So opposite, I'm terrible at physics, but something about opposite and equal action and reaction, something like that, the metaphysics as well as physics. So something happens and there's a response to that. And so it ties into what we were talking about before, that I have a thought and then I have an emotional reaction to that thought. That emotional reaction creates another thought, and that thought creates another, and so this wheel starts spinning. So for me personally, that's the wheel of karma. And so they say that that's the thing that gets us caught. So we could say, okay, I'm going to force a good thought now. We might have a good emotional reaction to that for a little while, then action reaction, and then the bad thought comes in, and then we have so that spins again. So the concept of spirituality is to become free of karma. So free of karma, so free of the wheel of karma. That's what the Buddhists speak about. So what does that mean? So free of the wheel of karma means people misunderstand this and they make it overcomplicated. Like, oh, one day I'll become a Buddha and I'll have done so many good things that I will be free of my karma. I don't believe that that's what it means at all. So free of the wheel of karma means I'm not caught in it's not that I'm not thinking. It's not that I'm having emotional reactions to those thoughts. That might still be happening, but I found the center of the storm. So, in other words, a thought comes, a thought goes. Emotional reaction happens, emotion reaction goes, like waves on an ocean. So, in other words, I'm free of over identification with the movements within my being. Movement means action, karma, action, reaction, action, reaction. So they might still happen, but there's more of there's less of an identification with that. We still experience emotions, we still have thoughts, but it's like there's not such a powerful concept of I am having those thoughts. It's like, oh, those thoughts are happening, those emotions are happening. There's an observer kind of experience in that, or as a spaciousness within us. Ram Dass also, one of his teachings was when you start all your karma, your neurosis, all that, it's like being in a tight little broom cupboard with it all. And there's just all that. And then he said, the more you meditate, awaken to your practice, he said, eventually you're in a warehouse. And that broom cupboard is still over in the corner, full of clutter, all your karma, all your thoughts and mental projection, everything that's still there. But there's a spaciousness of the warehouse now as well. And so what happens is that spaciousness slowly opens. Or if I'm really locked into my action reaction mechanism, it's like, oh, this too shall pass. I've learned now that, if I can't get rid of this for whatever reason, I'll listen to some music, listen to some spiritual teachers so I can farm out my thinking. They can run my thinking for a while if I don't have the strength to run my own. So I just listen to spiritual stuff, if my mind's really playing up, because they become the voice in the head that's talking about spirituality now. So in some Zen traditions, the whole spiritual practice is just mind watching. There's a beautiful documentary, but it's called Amongst White Clouds, and it's about the Chan Buddhists in the mountains of China. And an American student goes to film them and create a documentary about them. You can watch it for free on YouTube. And one of the temples he goes to, there's a novice monk sat probably in his late teens, early 20s, who's been studying with this master for a few years. And it's the golden question. So the interviewer asks the student, what meditation has he taught you? Oh my God, I want I want to know. And the student just says, he never taught me how to meditate. He just said, sit down and watch your mind. You'll learn everything you need to know. And so this student sits, watches his mind. And so what happens when you do that regularly, if you do that practice, is there's just thoughts and emotions. Now there's a sense of I'm watching my thoughts and emotions. So it brings in an observer. So now there's an observer and there's thoughts and emotions. But over time, that observer becomes more tangible. So it's like that's the spaciousness starts to come, you know. So yeah. And so everyone in this world, they want freedom. So the spiritual tradition, they say, yeah, wanting freedom is fine, and wanting happiness is fine. But they're really saying that the world has it all wrong. The pursuit of happiness. So they're saying that when you think it's on the outside, that total fulfillment can be found on the outside of you. It's saying that, it's just not possible. And so then because we believe happiness will be on the outside of us, we spend our life pursuing it. No. And so we have all these false idols, the rock stars, the the millionaire, the person with the no body fat. That evades me. Past the age of 40, that seems to evade me more and more. So we have these things that we're taught to chase. But we're just never taught. We have it already. And then there's a paradox that when we find we have it already, we start to act as if we're someone that has happiness, success, abundance already. And then the bizarre paradox is we start to draw it in because we're not so tense. And so this is why they say, change is an inside job. Happiness is an inside job. And it also means that sometimes it seems that the best situations in life aren't the best situations for the soul. So, plenty of people in the world, they have the plasma television, a trophy relationship, everything, all the trimmings. And they're so depressed. Because if that hunger isn't there, you know, it's just too much comfort. We don't ask big questions. We don't practice hard. But of course, we don't want an extreme position the other way as well. That can be troublesome. So sometimes life will be hard, but then just see what you can learn from that. See if where's the problem? And so in this moment, where's the problem? And you may say, I'm looking at him. He's right there in the green t-shirt. And then you get on really well with, some of my friends from school. That weird spiritual guy that we don't speak to anymore, who doesn't drink. A strange man, you know. So in this moment, you know, and so, you know, my advice is don't give your mind to your trauma, your unconscious nature, your programming, your past. Devotional tradition is give your mind to God. Just let him, her, that, the light, just let that take care of your mind. Let that heal you. You know, they say in India, bring metal next to a magnet and the metal becomes magnetized. And so bring your mind close to the divine, your mind will become divine. And bring your heart to the divine, your heart will become divine. And give your life to the divine, your life will become divine. Or don't. And just see how that goes. And so in this moment, where is your mind? Is your mind bringing you happiness and peace? And where's your heart, your emotional body? And is that bringing you happiness and peace? And so giving your mind to the divine, you know, my practice I offer is repeating one of the divine names, visualizing one of the divine forms, and just doing that once. As soon as you bring that name or that image in, you're already there. That doesn't lead you anywhere. It just holds you in that divine presence. And then the struggle you'll have is boredom will come. And so then you start that process. How do I stay in this? And that's your Zen koan. That's your problem to figure out. How do you stay in this? And so slowly you create like a chalice of your life that can hold that presence. And the way you'll do that is different to the way I do that. You know, for me to do that, I need to do yoga most days, Tai Chi, a few hours in stillness, predominantly vegetarian diet, no alcohol, time in nature, occasional lion, pizza at the weekend. So, but you have to find, you know, how do I keep myself in that. And then you're learning how to become that unique expression. And slowly you'll build trust. And then slowly, as that trust comes, you may even be put into positions in your life when all you have is faith in that. Maybe a situation which is too much for you to bear, too much for you to solve. And that is fierce grace. That's just inviting you, surrender. Let me take care of this. And so that's the stripping away. Until you find that absolute joy of living in that state of surrender without guilt, without this heaviness of shame, without fear, because now you know that this intelligence, through your own trial and error, loves you unconditionally. And now you've stripped away the negative stories, archetypes, and projections, and you're just in this state called Garden of Eden. And you know, the story of the Garden of Eden is that they were in communion with the divine all of the time. Everything was just given, everything was in flow. We see that we're too scared to surrender, and so we don't. And then we do our thing, and it might not turn out the way we want, or we stay in this fight or flight mechanism of fight, I must change this, I need to do something. This like I need to change, I need to do this, me. And that's the process, and it's an ongoing process of deepening. How do we get pushed off the edge of the cliff and say, yeah, that's fine? It's like we can't. Too much fear in us. So it's a process of building the faith of the mustard seed. So we see, oh, it worked out okay. But also, what I would add to that is, if you feel like you really need to do something, that's fine. Go and do it. Don't fight against it. So mine's going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so, okay, here's the wall. Up the wall, down the wall, up the wall, down the wall. So, Om Nav Shivaya, Om Guan Yin, Om Mary, Om Jesus, Om Buddha. My mind's in the mantra. It can't turn on me because it's got something to do. And so, yeah, this is the thing about letting go. Like in the in some of the kind of Zen Taoist traditions, they say just let go. But my emotional heart's too intense for that, too scared. So I add another sentence to that, let go and let God. So I'm not just letting go into the chaos. I'm willfully saying, your will be done. Here's the reins of my life. You look after this. And so I'm more at peace when I do that. But also, you know, The mind is doing the mantra, so it can't turn on me through the process. So, so we'll be bashed from pillar to post. Should I? Shouldn't I? Should I? Shouldn't I? But if maybe, but if maybe. And that plays out for as long as it plays out for. And that's the learning in a way. It plays out, and then suddenly, ah, okay, I'm gonna do it. And it's so clear. I need to do this. So in a way, we have to let that play out. The like the don't know. It's like the don't know is as welcome as the do know. So like, okay, I don't know at the moment. And that's I'm gonna make my peace with I don't know. So I don't know, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. But we still stay receptive and we still surrender it and we still say, your will, okay, I'm just here for this. I don't understand. Well, Lao
Yeah,
Tzu says, can you be still until the right knowing arrives by itself? And when we know, it's like we know that we know when we know. So it's like it's in a way they say, in they talk about it more in the Zen Taoist tradition that like just embrace the fact that you don't know and be at peace with that too, and just ride that out. Yeah, Shakespeare saw that too. With it, he said like, what life is a play, and we're all kind of actors in that. Thank you. We have these rules like, oh, I'm meant to be in the world. I can't be in a cave, or I'm meant to be in a cave and not in the world. And maybe we're just always meant to be where we are. What if we made that okay? And so Lao Tzu says that there's no rules. He says actually that the whole thing is rest in the Tao. Just rest in your naturalness and follow your natural compulsions. He said if we don't do that, he says then we'll create rules and regulations and we'll create religion and and he says that's chaos because we're trying to fit what is free as the breeze, as free as the ocean, into a narrow channel of should and shouldn't and must and mustn't, which is just a personality thing. But so yeah, first I would say, you know, that maybe it's okay to be involved in the world, to not be in the world. I love the monasteries because in the monasteries they say each monk, like the one monk will run the gift shop because they have a natural tendency, they want to run a shop. One monk will do the paperwork because they're just naturally drawn to accounting. One monk will naturally, or one set of monks will do outreach because they naturally want to serve in the world. So they'll work in charities and they'll do outreach work. Other monks will feel more drawn to be teachers. So they'll run the services in the monastery where the public come in on a Sunday and they'll do the teaching. None of those jobs is seen as better than any of the others. They're just all finding their place in the monastery. And life is a monastery, As Einstein said, you put a fish up a tree and it will watch a monkey and feel a failure all of its life because it's not in its environment where it's meant to be its genius. And a genius means someone who operates from the soul. That was the original meaning of genius. And Einstein said, we're all geniuses, and that was the beginning of that story. But he said, put the fish up a tree and it'll look at a monkey and feel like a failure because it's not doing what it's meant to be doing. So we have these ideas of, oh, I should be doing this or I must be doing that. So I would say, examine if that is coming from a should, a must, and a ought to. Is that a guilt thing? Oh, I should be in the world and there's all this darkness. Or is it a real compulsion of the heart to serve? That's different because then it's like, okay, I'll listen to that. What can I do? Not what should I do? What the idea of doing lights me up. That for some people, that's working at Sunday in a charity shop. For some people, that's working in working in a soup kitchen. For some people, that's going to a mental health project and running and giving free massage. It's different for everyone. But the first is follow the heart. What does my heart want to express? Because then you're in alignment. But also there's an understanding, as you deepen into these practices, that consciousness is an ocean, and consciousness is an ocean. And then I was listening to a woman who had an out-of-body experience a few days ago, and she described how in the out-of-body state, following a temporary death where she came back, she saw all the souls on the earth, and each one was vibrating at a different frequency. Some were completely still, and they were just feeding. She saw it like a spider's web of light. They were feeding stillness into the collective. Some were extremely busy working, doing this and doing that, and they were feeling chaos into the collective. Some of those people were probably doing good things, but from a place of chaos. And so what she felt she witnessed in that state was actually what we're being in the world has tremendous benefit, even if we're shut. My teacher in India used to say, what stops the world going under is just a few very advanced beings meditating in caves in the Himalayas. The intensity of the vibration that they're bringing into the collective thought form is stopping the, and we think it's the war, it's the, if I stop this war, if I fight this and fight that, then I'm going to save the world. But if it depends how we see the world, is it just a physical manifestation, or is there a subtle manifestation that's actually showing up as wars, as hatred, as violence? So it's hard to say, So yeah, so for me, I do a post in the morning on Facebook. I do this group. I teach Tai Chi, and then I withdraw again into stillness, into pizza, into whatever makes me happy, whatever sets my vibration. So how do we turn our life into spiritual practice? I love my stillness time, but then, Christ made it so simple. He said, love people, full stop. That's like, there's no small print, just feel love for people. When your services, be kind to like the great Zen master I saw. He said, people think Buddhist Dharma is complicated. He said, Buddhist Dharma is simple. He said, if someone's thirsty, make them a cup of tea. That's Buddhist Dharma. If someone's hungry, make them some food. That's the Dharma. Nothing more complicated than that. So kindness, love, that's how we can really be in the world, you know. So yeah, we just do what we can, you know. Spend some time, Mother Teresa once said famously on a radio show where I think it was Wayne Dyer was, or no, so the radio host was asking Mother Teresa, I want to help your mission. Please tell me what to do. And he said, we can raise money on the radio station here. We could raise loads of money. And she's like, no, I don't need any money. I'm fine. Thank you. And he says, please tell me, how can I support your work? And so she said, oh no, for a while. And then he was so insistent. And so she said, go onto the streets tonight, find someone who thinks they're alone and convince them that they're not. That's how you help my mission. So no, of course, that doesn't mean that we all do that tonight. We have different lives, but it means, we just work out how to bring a bit more light, a bit more kindness, a bit more beauty, and we follow that. So I guess that's a good finishing point for tonight.